Good morning, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to open this meeting on behalf of the University of Southampton. My name is James Wilkinson. I'm Associate Dean Planning and Strategy for Physical Sciences and Engineering. I've had over the years several very good collaborations with both Japanese industry and academia. We have visitors coming in September from the Toyota Technological Institute in Ogaya, and it's always been a great inspiration to see the discussions I've had with researchers from Japan. It's particularly good to welcome our visitors from Japan Society for the Promotion of Science today. JSPS is Japan's leading funding agency, funded by the Japanese Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports and Technology, Science, Sports and Technology. And it was established in 1932 and promotes the advancement of academic research in all disciplines from social sciences and humanities to natural sciences and engineering. And several academics from this university have benefited from funding from JSPS. Quite broadly, actually, from Professor Mike Kelly in humanities to Professor Harvey Wright in electronics and computer science. So there are many opportunities we have for working closely with Japanese researchers through JSPS. And I hope we take the opportunity to work even more closely in the future. Today, JSPS colleagues are here supporting the 2015 UK-Japan Silicon Nanoelectronics and Nanotechnology Symposium, which is going on in parallel, and which Ogaya has just opened. I hope I'll get back there at some point, but it's turned into a busy day. And that's going on today and tomorrow, and we're very grateful for their support in that symposium. So, today they want to take advantage of the opportunity of being here to explain to you the funding program they have and give you information on opportunities they have for researchers from the University of Southampton to work through them with researchers in Japan. We have had an event like this about 5 years ago, I believe, and that provoked a lot of interest, and I hope that will happen again. So, if I can introduce the participants from JSPS London office, Mr. Chigusa Ogaya, I'm going to have to apologise for my pronunciations. Ms. Polly Watson, the Deputy Director, Ogaya. Ms. Polly Watson, the International Programme Officer. Mr. Takeshi Kamizawa. Which one's me? Takeshi? Put your hands up, anyone? Or? Okay, and Mr. Takafumi Okada, who are International Programme Associates, up the back there. And from the University of Southampton staff and postgraduate research students from the faculties of Medicine, Natural Environment Sciences and Physical Sciences and Engineering. I'm sure you'll take the opportunity to introduce yourselves to our visitors as the morning goes on. So, the main activities this morning are an overview by our colleagues from JSPS on different funding opportunities, and then an overview of some of the activities we're taking part in, conducting at the University of Southampton. So, unfortunately, I have to dash off, but can I take this opportunity to thank our visitors for coming here, spending the time delivering the information on their funding opportunities, and I'm sure that will be of great benefit to our researchers here in Southampton. So, thank you very much. I hope you have a very enjoyable and profitable morning. Thank you.
So let's get started. I'm Chigusa Ogaya, Deputy Director at JSPS London. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to show you JSPS programs here at University of Southampton. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining today with us. Today I will talk about JSPS overview before my colleague Mr. Okada explains the details of JSPS fellowship programs, which most of you may be interested in. JSPS, Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, is the Japanese largest funding agency for universities and researchers. It was established through an endowment by Emperor Showa in 1932. This photo shows the selection committee meeting at that time. And since then, JSPS has been recognized as the largest research funding agency with the longest history in Japan through our open competitive research grants and research fellowships for all the research fields. This slide shows the framework of governmental organizations which relate to supporting science in Japan. And we are here as a research funding agency under Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology. We call it MEXT. And as you may see, there are other several funding agencies like JST and NEDO. But there is a distinct difference between JSPS and other organizations. Other organizations support top-down research, priority mission-oriented research. But we JSPS support bottom-up research, which are driven based on researchers' curiosity. We don't have any priority area, and we are always open to all research fields: humanities, social sciences, and natural sciences. And in addition, we are the only organization to support international researchers' exchanges, like fellowship programs for researchers overseas. And these are JSPS 4 major missions. And today I'd like to focus on the fourth mission, to advance international collaborations, which we JSPS London office is acting for. JSPS London is one of JSPS overseas offices. The London office was established in 1994 to strengthen Japan-UK academic linkages. Our mission includes advertising JSPS programs to UK researchers and organizations in cooperation with the UK universities and funding agencies like RC UK. Through our promotional events like today, we expect more and more UK researchers to get interested in our programs and visit Japan for the long-lasting collaborations with Japanese researchers. Then let's move on to our programs. We have 3 types of international collaboration programs according to targeted stage. The most basic programs for individuals here. We provide fellowship programs for foreign researchers to visit Japan, like postdoctoral fellowships and invitation fellowships. Then, when individual researchers' collaboration move on successfully to the next stage, they may form research groups. For these groups, we provide open partnership, joint projects, and seminars as a part of JSPS bilateral programs. Under this program, researchers group with several members in partner country and Japanese researchers group collaborate on an equal basis. When a research group grow and form a kind of hub institution or a core institution of the research area, and many researchers in that area gather to the core institution for cutting-edge science, they will create multilateral networks. To support this stage, we provide a core-to-core program. As you may see, we provide 3 types of programs. But there is a mutual fundamental scheme. In JSPS international collaboration programs, foreign researchers visiting Japan require to have host researcher in Japan. They are expected to do their collaborative works in host researchers' labs together. And when Japanese researchers visit the partner country for their research, they are also required to work with their host researcher there. We think these face-to-face researchers' linkages are essential to promote long-lasting collaboration. And here are JSPS fellowship programs which support foreign researchers to visit Japan. JSPS fellowship programs cover all researcher career stage, and my colleague Mr. Okada will explain the details in the next part. Then I'd like to talk about core-to-core program and open partnership joint projects and seminars. This slide shows basic framework of these programs. As you see, Japanese team has a project leader, Japanese core researcher with Japanese collaborators. And Japanese project leader submit proposal to JSPS. And once awarded, JSPS provide financial support to Japanese team, mainly for their travel expenses. In partner countries, for example in the UK researcher team is required to have a core project leader. He or she is expected to gain grants for their own travel expenses because JSPS doesn't provide financial support for for researchers of partner countries. That means each research team collaborates with each other by their own grants. You may think JSPS is mean, but our principle is equal partnership at this collaboration stage. Financial support is to be on equal basis between Japanese researchers and UK researchers, as well as research collaboration itself. Here is core-to-core program. This program aims to build multilateral linkages between Japanese and overseas research cores in cutting-edge scientific fields, and to foster early career researchers through joint activities. Annual funding for Japanese team is maximum £120,000 per year, and duration is up to 5 years. Matching fund is required for overseas partner researchers. UK universities here are now involved in this program, and we hope University of Southampton will also be a part of this program in near future. And this is open partnership joint project and seminars for bilateral group research. Annual funding is £15,000 per year for each Japanese research group, and partner research group is strongly expected to gain their own matching fund. For both core-to-core program and open partnership joint projects and seminars, JSPS Tokyo head office accept applications. If you would like to be involved in these programs, first please talk with your Japanese partner and request them to submit proposals to JSPS Tokyo head office. Call for applications are now opened, and you can see the details at JSPS website. You can easily find its link at Funding Opportunities at JSPS London website. Then I'll talk about researcher networks of JSPS London. We are in strong cooperation with the UK JSPS Alumni Association. All the UK-based researchers who completed JSPS fellowship programs are all welcome to join Alumni Association free of charge. Alumni members can receive many benefits. For example, we have exclusive programs for alumni members called JSPS Bridge Fellowship programs to revisit Japan to expand their bridge between UK and Japan. Alumni members, this is the Alumni Association website, and you can find a call for applications and events information for alumni members. Alumni members share their experience with future applicants of JSPS fellowship programs on the occasion of JSPS London's promotional event Today we'll have Professor Stefano Moretti's talk, and I suppose he will share with you his experience and very practical information for you. And also you can find their experience reports at the Alumni Association's website. And here is another researcher network related to JSPS London, JBUK. JBUK is the JSPS official UK-based Japanese researchers group. Members are Japanese researchers who actively do their research at UK universities. We have JSPS London Symposium scheme for members of Alumni Association and JBUK to hold symposiums to expand their UK-Japan networks. Today, we have a symposium supported by this scheme on nanoelectronics here at University of Southampton. And this is my last slide showing top global university project by MEXT. 13 Japanese selected universities shown here have been awarded by MEXT new project since last year, aiming at world top-level research and education. If you would like to start a research collaboration with Japan, they could be the candidates of your partner. So that's all for my presentation, and thank you for your attention. So now I'll hand over to my colleague, Mr. Okada. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Takafumi Okada. I'm an International Program Associate at JSPS London. I'd like to introduce our international fellowships for researchers based in the UK. We have 3 types of fellowships and fellowship programs depending on different career stages and purposes. At first, summer program is for earliest career researchers, MPhil and PhD, and postdoctoral fellowship is for PhD and postdoc. Invitation fellowship is for middle career researchers and professors. At first, I'd like to explain about summer program. Summer program provides opportunities for young researchers from the UK, the US, France, Germany, Canada, and Sweden to receive an orientation on Japanese culture and to pursue their research under the guidance of their host researchers in Japan. Every year, more than 100 young researchers, including 10 UK researchers, participate in this program. The duration is a 2-month set period during mid-June to mid-August, which includes 1 week orientation and 2 months research. The orientation includes a lecture of Japanese culture, language, scientific system, and a homestay with a Japanese family. Of course, JSPS will cover most of the costs. Maintenance allowance 534,000 Japanese yen for 2 months is enough money to cover most usual costs for a single person living in Japan. If you'd like to apply for this program, you can send an application to our nominating authority British Council Tokyo, not to JSPS. The British Council Tokyo recommends excellent researchers to JSPS Tokyo. Then JSPS Tokyo finally confirms the awards. The call for this summer has already been closed, but the next call for 2016 will open in this autumn. British Council Tokyo will accept the application of the current MPhil or PhD student at a UK university who has UK nationality. If you have other nationalities, please check the eligibility criteria on other nominating authorities' website. The most important thing for not only this program, but also all other fellowships is to find your host researcher in Japan. If you have no connection with Japanese researchers, then you can make use of our research map system, which I will explain later. Next, I'd like to move on to the postdoctoral fellowships. Postdoctoral fellowships have three schemes: short-term, standard, and pathway. They are different in duration and eligibility. At first, about short-term. Applicants should either be within 2 years of finishing your PhD or have received a PhD within the last 6 years. This program provides you with the opportunity to conduct a cooperative research with Japanese institutions. Please note that the amount of maintenance allowance is different depending on the situation, whether you have PhD degree or not. And please also note that the eligibility criteria is with regard to the nationality. Applicant has two options to apply for this fellowship. First one is through JSPS London, and second one is by a host researcher in Japan to JSPS Tokyo. JSPS London has 20 quota and calls for the fellowship independently of JSPS Tokyo. In case of the former one, upper side, applicant has to submit the applications to JSPS London on your own. On the other hand, in case of the latter one, this one, your host researcher has to submit the applications to JSPS Tokyo. Calls for the fellowship through JSPS London, so upper side, take place twice a year, and the calls are announced on the JSPS London website 2 months before the deadlines. The deadlines are usually in early June and December. The next deadline will be on 1st December. This is the application form for the postdoctoral fellowships. We require an application form which includes your personal information and research plan in Japan, and also research abstract, invitation, and 2 references, etc. Next, I'd like to explain about postdoctoral standard and pathway fellowships. Those eligible are postdocs who have received a PhD within the last 6 years for standard and or 10 years for pathway. Pathway is to promote the employment of overseas researchers in full-time position at Japanese institutions after this fellowship. In both of the fellowships, applicant can receive the research grant of up to 1.5 million Japanese yen per year by applying through the host institution. About the standard, applicant has 2 options to apply for the standard fellowship. First one is through nominating authority, And the second one is by a host researcher in Japan to JSPS Tokyo. Nominating authorities are the Royal Society for Natural and Physical Sciences and British Academy for Humanities and Social Sciences. Nominating authorities have 11 nomination quota totally and call for the fellowship independently of JSPS Tokyo. About the pathway. Applicant has only one option to apply for the pathway. In this case, applicant has to submit the application by a head of Japanese host institution because the host institution will employ you after this fellowship. The quota is 20 and selection ratio is 52% in fiscal year 2014. So you have a good chance. Finally, I'd like to explain about invitation fellowships. There are 3 types: long-term, short-term S for distinguished researchers. Short-term S is too specific that I'd like to skip it this time. The long term provides the opportunity to conduct a cooperative research, and the short term aims to advancement of research through discussions, opinion exchanges, lectures, and other academic activities. Both are available to senior level researchers. In both of the fellowships, applicants can receive the research grant of up to 150,000 Japanese yen by applying through the host institution. In these cases, Japanese host researcher will collect and submit the applications to JSPS Tokyo. Before closing my presentation, I'd like to introduce our 2 useful systems to help you find your host researcher in Japan. This is our JSPS London website top page. First one is Research Map, and second one is Japan Affiliated Research Community Network. We call it JACNet. This is a search result of Research Map. You can find researchers in Japan by name, affiliation, research field, keyword, etc. And he is our director, Professor Takeyasu. For more information, please visit our JSPS London website. On the website, you can also find case studies written by former fellows about their experiences in Japan. If you have any questions, please feel free to approach us later or email us at enquire@jsps.org. Japan has 4 colorful seasons like these pictures. Once you visit Japan, you will really like it. In the hot summer days, we go to the sea or just stay at home because it's too hot. And in the cold winter days, we go to hot springs, and if you have a chance, you will meet with monkey taking a bath comfortably. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
I'd like to introduce myself as well. I'm Polly Watson. I'm responsible for all of those programs you've just heard about. So indeed, if you have any detailed questions about them, I'm happy to take them later on. What we do feel is important is for our alumni, where possible, to give testimonials at these kinds of promotion events. And I'm looking around the room, so I've asked Professor Stefano Moretti, are you sitting right there? From the School of Physics and Astronomy, who indeed has had a long collaboration with Japan. So, as an esteemed member of our Alumni Association, if you would kindly
Sure.
talk about those experiences, we'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Right, so I'm professor of particle physics in the School of Physics and Astronomy, and was fortunate to have been selected as a JSPS fellow to visit Japan for 2 weeks earlier on this year. I was in particular awarded a JSPS short-term visitor grant in January 2014, and that had to be deployed used in February 2015, so plenty of time for organizing the travel, which JSPS essentially did on my behalf really well. I will touch on it later on. My host was Professor Kanemura at the University of Toyama, with whom I have a long-term collaboration, which in fact dates back to 2000. We met in, I think in Oxford. I was a PDRA there, postdoctoral research assistant there, and he was PDRA in somewhere in Europe. I think he was in Karlsruhe. So it was easy to interact then. It was just 1 hour away by flight, and we were on the same time zone, so it was a pretty effective collaboration that led us to produce quite a few papers, some with very good impact. One of those is actually ranked by as renowned papers. So the collaboration was very effective all the way through when Professor Kanemura was based in Europe. It so happened that in 2007 he went back to Japan, so he was on a time zone which is 10 hours apart from the UK. It's a long way away to travel there, so we had to think of a way of organizing institutional collaboration, so essentially exchange grants. So the first opportunity that we came across was back in 2005, when PMI2 is an acronym which stands for Prime Minister Initiative, the second of the series that Tony Blair at the time launched to foster collaboration at various levels, academia, industry, between the UK and Japan. And we applied, Professor Kanemura and myself. We were able to raise an exchange grant running over 2 years, which enabled me to continue the collaboration with him. That was actually also a means of linking up with other members of the particle physics group in Toyama, in particular a student who came to visit us under the auspices of the MI2 in Southampton several times, eventually applied to JSPS for a fellowship for research abroad to come to the UK, and now we are hosting him for 2 years. Then it came the possibility of visiting Japan through the JSPS short-term visitor grant in 2015, which I took. It was brilliant because it is very effective to be in situ, to work with your collaborator intensively for a few weeks at a time. It's much more efficient than trying to do it over a 10-hour time zone. Therefore, I was there for those 2 weeks I referred to at the beginning of these slides. And that was also instrumental to put together an application to Age 2020, Horizon 2020. It's a scheme which links up through exchange grants at various levels, nodes in the EU as well as partner nodes. One of these is Japan, so we were fortunate to apply to Horizon 2020 just a few weeks after I visited Japan and being awarded a 300k kilo euros, what's happening, it's a bit dodgy. And we also made the Spotlight, which is the new self-promoting magazine, so the faculty in which I work. It was, as I said, a short-term visitor. The previous speakers have gone through the details of it. For what concerns me, as I said, it's enabled me to continue my collaboration with Professor Kanemura, and they use it as stick-on funding to apply for a major Age 2020 grant. It also enabled me to participate in a conference that we have been organizing with Professor Kanemura in Toyama for 2 editions now, so this was the 2nd edition, which is about Higgs physics. I will tell you a little bit about the physics I've been working on with Professor Kanemura. And also enabled me to go around Japan, establish new collaborations, because the grant comes with a domestic research trip allowance of 150,000 yen, that meant that I was able to visit KK and establish new collaboration in Tsukuba. This is the major lab in Japan for particle physics. Logistics it was all organized by JSPS, in fact. They have a travel agency on which they lean. They simply had to say when I wanted to go, when I wanted to come back, and they sourced the flight the best flight in terms of being cost effective and convenient for my travel. They paid for it and just emailed me the electronic ticket. They also organized my travel within Japan. The grant comes with a very generous allowance of 18,000 yen per day, which is about 150 pounds. So I could afford to stay for 2 weeks in a 5-star hotel in Toyama, the Crown Plaza, which I can rarely do in my job. A little bit about the physics. The physics we do with Professor Kanemura is essentially trying to understand the nature of the Higgs boson that he was discovered at CERN about 3 years ago. In fact, it's 3 years and 2 days to the day of that major discovery. You know that CERN is the European Center for Nuclear Research. Actually, it's particle physics research. The search for the Higgs boson had been carried out, and is being carried out now during the second run of the so-called Large Hadron Collider, which is that big ring of 27 kilometers in length, which is sitting under Geneva, under Lake Le Mans and the bit of the Jura Mountain in France, where we collide protons against protons, and we detect what happened after that collision in 4 major experiments, which at least did there. In particular, I'm a theorist, but I'm working with one of these experiments, CMS. And what we do in that lab, essentially, in a nutshell, is to recreate. First of all, it's a worldwide collaboration. It's had 20 years of planning. It's been running since 2008. It had the first run between 2008 and 2012, which led to discover the Higgs boson and shut down for a major upgrade in energy, and it restarted just a couple of months back. So as I said, 20 years of planning. Essentially, every country in the world has been connected with this lab. And what we do from the point of view of physics is to recreate the Big Bang aftermath. Essentially, in the laboratory, we are able to reproduce the condition which existed in the universe a few picoseconds, a tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang. And one of the particles which existed then was the Higgs boson, which we discovered on the 4th of July 2012. That led to the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2013, because it's a really major discovery. It's not just another component of matter, it's not just another force in nature, it's actually the verification, the validation of the mechanism which gives mass to anything existing in the universe. But there is a lot to understand. We have to understand what is the true nature of this object, whether it belongs to the framework in which we are working now in terms of theory explaining the fundamental interaction, or whether it belongs to some more sophisticated version of it. Okay, so this is the kind of research we do with Professor Kanemura, trying to understand the nature of this object. There is a testimonial of my trip, as we mentioned in previous talk, on the JSPS website, so you may want to find more details about it there. Just one more minute, a little bit about Toyama. I'm very much looking forward to go back there. I was there once on the PMI2 grant, and I was back for the 2 editions of the conferences, and I come to love the place, I come to love Japan. In fact, any of these exchanges is first and foremost a cultural experience. Toyama per se, and I nicked a few slides from my collaborator, Professor Kanemura, from a talk that he gave a few weeks ago when he visited us in Southampton. He likes to say that Toyama is the center of Japan. By the way, this is the Southeast Asia map upside down for Westerners. That's the way they print them. I think he has a point. I think he certainly is not the geographic center, but it looks like the baricentrum of Japan. So that's where Toyama is. That ILC actually is an acronym of International Linear Collider, which is meant to be the successor to the LAC, and Japan is now thinking of building it there. And Toyama, it's very close to the site which has been chosen for building it. So that will be another major venture for particle physics with everything going well, will be confirmed this year, and construction will start in 5 years, with the machine running in 2025. Toyama is a beautiful place. It's surrounded by, it's on the sea, it's surrounded by mountains. It tells me that Toyama in fact means ridge mountains. In fact, they are the Japanese Alps. There are a few very tall mountains where you can actually ski. So it's a beautiful place, and it's plenty of snow. Believe it or not, this is what happened at the end of April. On those mountains there, walls of snow of 20-25 meters, which I had the fortune to drive through one year when I was visiting at the end of April. It's one of the major fishing ports of Japan, so I have had the best sushi of my life, repeatedly. And coincidentally enough, for my discipline, it's also close to another major experiment, which is called Super Kamiokande, which is essentially a big mine in one of those mountains, which has been filled with water or other liquids, which is meant to capture neutrinos, which float to the air every moment, and which was one of the participants in the discovery of the fact that this object, contrary to what we thought for 20 years, they actually had a mass. Okay. So altogether, I was fortunate to benefit from JSPS to carry out exciting research. I think I had pleasurable time in Japan, plenty of support from JSPS, and so I look forward to continue the collaboration for many years to come.
Thank you very much. What would you like us to do? Would you like me to take questions now? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's question and answer now for 15
Okay,
minutes.
fine. Okay. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, no, because it's the UK national rights. My question is that I'm not citizenship of the country, but I've got permanent residence here. So am I eligible or not?
There's only two programs whereby we have some certain criteria for nationality, that being the summer program and the short-term postdoctoral fellows. Is that what you're interested in?
Yeah, invitation fellows.
There's a sub-clause within there that states if you've spent 3 years in a country that's eligible doing PhD studies, or at least postgraduate studies, you are in fact eligible to apply, not to us in London, but to JSPS Tokyo.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So hopefully there's always going to be something open to you. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
On one of the fellowships that was talked about, there's two routes: applying through the JSPS London or applying through the JSPS Tokyo.
That's the short-term fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship.
Is there advantage? What are the advantages and disadvantages of applying for one or the other? And should you apply to both?
Oh, sorry, and also there's a standard postdoctoral fellowship through our nominating authorities. They really are designed to give UK-based researchers the best opportunity. The success rates do fluctuate. It's very difficult to pinpoint at the moment what that is, roughly about 30%. But to bear in mind that through the UK channels, whether it's us in London or through the Royal Society or British Academy, you're just competing with UK nationals or EU nationals. If you apply to JSPS Tokyo, it's open to many more countries. So I would bear that in mind. Essentially, the selection criteria is much the same, being that we're looking, of course, for to support scientific excellence. But what is most important is the collaboration is cemented, being that the plan has been well discussed before you make an application with your host, and also that we can see there's mutual benefit for your side and the Japanese side, and also there's some plan in the long term to further this collaboration. Okay. Okay.
Are you not supposed to, or can you apply to?
You can apply simultaneously. Of course, if you have the time and the energy to do so, that's fine. We would encourage it. Maximise the chance of success. Okay. Yes, please.
The quality of post in Japan, how important is it in succeeding in the application?
The quality.
Yeah, is it important? Should one look through these global university list, or can we pick any host?
So long as the host institution, yes, so long as the host institution has university status or national research institute status, and the host is working full-time there, they would be eligible to be a host. We are, of course, we're mentioning this as one of the main projects going on in Japan because an awful lot of money is being injected into these particular universities to establish international collaboration. So in that sense, you might find it quite straightforward, especially now. It's quite timely to set up the collaboration. But certainly, this list is not exhaustive. There's over 600 universities or national research institutes in Japan, a great many that you could work with. In terms of the quality of the researcher, that's very, very interesting. We probably, in the UK, when we do our selection, we have a very international panel that has a good idea of the strengths of the UK group and the strengths of the Japanese group. If you apply to JSPS Tokyo, it's somewhat different, being that the panel is mostly Japanese researchers, and they will most probably, a hegemonic bias they have, look towards the strengths of the Japanese group naturally. So considering the group that you want to work with in Japan, if you're applying to JSPS Tokyo, probably would be a good idea. But certainly if you're applying through UK channels, we consider on a much more, I like to say, even basis, the strengths of the UK and the Japanese group. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
And what proportion of your funding goes to social sciences?
I'm ashamed to say about a third. We are doing our utmost to really promote our programs as being those that apply equally to all fields. But we're visiting institutions in the UK now, like the London School of Economics and Political Sciences. We're visiting places like, we hope to, Chichester, that focuses a lot on humanities and social sciences to really raise the profile and the interest between the UK and Japan. We're hoping to do a joint seminar with the British Academy. But overall, it's been very difficult to really increase the number of applications in those areas. So please, if you are interested, do tell your colleagues about the opportunities, and you yourself, if you're interested to pursue an application, you're welcome to come back to us and discuss in detail. Yes?
Can I just ask another question going back to the sort of quality of the host?
Yes.
For these short-term applications of invitation fellowships, I think.
Yes.
Is it your advantage to say you're working? I mean, I have very good collaboration with somebody who's at postdoc stage.
Yes.
But for an application, would it be better if it was their head of department who's where the invitation came from? Is that would it make it more given authority? Although my collaborations with somebody more junior.
Yes, I do recommend taking that course. If the head of the institution is aware of your visit and is aware very much of the collaboration and what you're intending to do, that really helps us to see that where the project indeed is going and that the right people are informed. Nonetheless, on a more practical level, what we see is that there may be researchers, senior researchers that are working with you more on a day-to-day basis, and that's equally acceptable if we can see in the actual research proposal that a different person will be your day-to-day contact, for example. That's fine for us.
Okay, and you did mention research institutes rather than straight university or...
Yes.
My colleagues at the National Institute of Public Health, for example, which I don't know that it has university status and part of the linkages with the university, that would be an okay place to
Yes, yes. I mean, a very quick test would be whether they can apply to MEXT, the Ministry of Education, for funding in any case, and if that's so, they can also apply to JSPS. There are very few institutions which, in Japan, research institutions, that are working on a not-for-profit basis that are ineligible to apply to us. Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? Yes.
Obviously, the major interest for JSPS and by extension the home funding bodies and such is the amount of impact you get from these collaborations, right? So I'm looking at this, say, short-term fellowship, for example. What kind of impact do you normally get out of that kind of research? Obviously, it's quite a hard question because it's discipline dependent and this kind of thing. But is there some kind of any metric you use to determine the success of a collaboration? Or anything like this?
Certainly outputs, and certainly the more enduring and longer term partnerships that can be brokered and strengthened. These are all things that we look at an interim basis. and reflect on and think about how we need to change our programs accordingly. You are right, it does depend very much on the discipline, but for the postdoctoral fellowships, we're so pleased to see that the quality of the applicants before they go to Japan is very high generally, and we can compare that with applications from other countries, and we see that UK-based researchers do well. And as a result, when they are in Japan, they are very productive, and we see there are these postdoctoral researchers, they come back to the UK, they do get either a first, another research position quite easily in the UK, or a tenured position. So we like to think that the JSPS fellowship is the right step at that career stage.
Sure, there is at least a correlation, but there is usually
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
I might have one. Yes, one question. I don't know whether this can be answered, but what are the, if you can tell us, what are the three top criteria you look for in an application for funding, for example?
A good research plan, and by that, excellent justification of use of time while in Japan. So we're looking for a clear timeline of achievables, and also there's got to be proof, and by proof we ask for email correspondence with the host to show that the channel of communication is strong, that you're both moving in the right direction together, and that you've agreed on certain points in the research that you want to achieve together. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also the longer term vision that you have to work together and indeed build those networks in Japan. Those for us are what we consider to be very good value to support. Any other questions? Yes.
In terms of movement of people from the UK to Japan, does it necessarily have to be going to Japan? I mean, can it be a case where the Japanese researcher and the UK researcher are both going to another country to do some field work?
Absolutely, yes. The fellowships and the larger group level programs are very flexible in those terms. So of course the plan has to be stated clearly in the application stage, but yes, we do have various cases that work along those lines.
So would the Japanese research then have to apply for JSPS to also funding through a separate application, or would they go with the same application?
They would have to apply to the relevant scheme separately. So where there's a lot of movement involved, they would need to probably apply to a group level program, the bilateral project scheme that we mentioned for 1 to 2 years. I don't know if that's something that would be viable for your situation. Whereas the UK side, of course, could apply to the JSPS fellowship to then work in Japan or do field work elsewhere. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Excuse me. Hi. Are you ready for the presentation? 25, and then